summoning you. Villains with every aspect I choose, and showing just that they lose when they step in the game. Everyone knows my name. Doctor Strange, who, Spider-Ham, maybe, and Black Widow, on a secret mission to stop the villain. Dance of Death is the main event. Unless I'm Rocket Raccoon, no time to be rude. Oh wait, I'm a superhero, always willing to go to blow with crimes to save so many lives. A stud is do or die. Marvel champions, you a champion. I'm champion, we are champions. I'm a superhero, always willing to go to blow with crimes to save so many lives. A stud is do or die. Marvel champions, you a champion. I'm champion, we are champions. They say it's a little bit slow, but I'm all about control. When I stun and confused, cause there's no way I would lose. I flip up and down, villains stand you round till I'm ready or not. This combo ready to drop 20, 30 damages and cannon Hulk smash. I'm a bash, put him in the trash and call it a match. Let's step up in the portal or get up in game. Dead Winnie the Nelson, so keep it locked and watching. I'm a superhero, always willing to go to blow with crimes to save so many lives. A stud is do or die. Marvel champions, you a champion. I'm champion, we are champions. I'm a superhero, always willing to go to blow with crimes to save so many lives. A stud is do or die. Marvel champions, you a champion. I'm champion, we are champions.
Welcome everybody to Descry Gaming. I'm Descry. I have a little bit of a cold, or I'm congested right now, but I really wanted to do my Let's Talk, so I said, let's just do it. I took one of those NyQuil pills, and I think I can do it. But I just want to let you guys know that I appreciate you. And, you know, the Let's Talks are sort of where people can interact with me live through the chat. We could just discuss things about these heroes. But, you know, the topics can go wherever they want to go. It's very casual, but basically in a nutshell, I sort of team up a pair of heroes. I play, obviously, some Let's Plays with them. I try maybe different aspects. And then at the end of it, I kind of discuss my feelings and just overview of my experience with these heroes together. And one thing I would say is I wouldn't say this is really directed at solo play. So if you are a solo Marvel Champions nut, I don't mean that in a bad way, just figuratively speaking, like you love to play solo. Probably what I'm saying, like in this Let's Talk, isn't really going to translate super well in solo because, like I've always said, solo, you sort of have to be a jack of all trades. You have to be able to deal with scheme. You have to be able to survive. You have to do a lot of things. So when you team up or in a player counted game, you can kind of be more dedicated to a particular role as long as your team is filling in the other parts of the game, right? So a good example is OG Spider-Man. So obviously he has a one thwart, so not the best thwart. He doesn't even have events in his kit that thwart. He has web tracers that can help him with the thwarting, but again, you have to have a minion out. So it's a lot more involving to get him to thwart very well. And therefore, if you're playing him in solo, obviously you want to go the ally route with him because that will make up for some of that poor thwarting he has in his toolkit. Spider-Man OG is an amazing hero. I love him. But that's just a good example of where if I'm playing OG Spider-Man in a player counted game, in a team game, I don't have to go the ally route with him. I could, for instance, if I want to play Protection OG Peter Parker, I could do a perfect defense build with him and play maybe one or two allies that are just there for support, like Black Widow to control and counter cards. And my other team can focus on dealing with threat and side schemes. So I just want to kind of throw that out there because I feel like that is still kind of a confusing thing in the game. When we start talking about heroes and what we like about them and how they play, it sometimes gets lost in translation. Like, oh, we're talking about solo, because like the way I talk about, say, Quicksilver and solo compared to team could be totally different, right? Because Quicksilver is kind of like a setup hero. And setup heroes do a little bit better in multiplayer because, again, you could rely on your teammates. Iron Man can rely on another teammate to kind of hold it down for the early mid-game. Then Iron Man comes out, he's a setup hero, and he just dominates, right? He kind of takes over, brings back the game to the player side of things. And so... And the reason why I want to, talk about what I'm talking about right now is because we have Quicksilver, who is fairly slow out of the gates. He needs to set up. He's a good example of a setup character. And then you have Ghost Spider, who is kind of a setup character per se, but not like Quicksilver is. But she is. I would classify her as like a covert hero. Now, this is a term I made up, so I don't expect you to understand what a covert hero is. It just, I use the word covert is for heroes that can do stuff on the villain's turn, such as Black Widow, Ghost Spider. There's a few other heroes, I think, in the game that also can kind of do stuff like actions or interfere with the villain when the villain phase is going. So I call her a covert kind of type hero. And so she's great for control, great for helping a build character like, say, Quicksilver take the time to build up, because she can do a lot of things to slow down the villain on both phases. So getting into this Let's Talk, we're going to talk about Quicksilver and Ghost Spider. Now, one thing you guys might know, I do play the game a ton. And I have never touched Quicksilver since the game has been launched. Quicksilver wasn't like a super new hero. I think he came out around the Red Skull era, I think, in between Galaxy's Most Wanted, Red Skull. That's roughly where my memory is about when he came out. But I never touched him. I don't know why. And it's not like I don't like Quicksilver, like far as like comic book lore goes. I think he's a cool hero. I guess there's so many heroes in the game, and I guess I never just made the switch over to him. I would say I did make obviously I play with Wanda. So maybe it had to do with I just gravitated more to Wanda, and then I went to other heroes, and I never got back to Quicksilver. But so that was kind of fun because he's kind of like he's not very a new hero, and I've just never played him. But going into this, I knew how he kind of plays based on what I saw other people playing him and looking at his identity kit. So he is definitely a setup hero. The thing about him, though, he scales very, very well as you set him up. So the more you set him up, the more he's going to do for you. So he's not as he's kind of bursty setup, if that makes any sense. What I mean by that is, so he gets set up and then he can burst into these huge thwarting, killing, damage turns where he just dominates that round. And then he sort of has to he's exhausted kind of, so to speak. He needs to get some of those key cards back in his always be running and maximum velocity and stuff like that. And then you kind of do it over again. Now, I played him in the pool aspect, and I actually think that might be the strongest aspect, at least for me when I was playing him. And my reasoning behind it is, you have the triple resources that help pay for stuff like his signature ally, Scarlet Witch, which you really want to get Scarlet Witch out, because on the altar side, you can discard 2. If she's out, you can get an extra card because it says draw 2 or draw 3 if Scarlet Witch is out, with you. And that's really good because it synergizes with his support, the several industry that allows you to put 2 Quicksilver cards from the discard to your deck. So they kind of work really nicely because you can kind of sift out the always be runnings, or the cards that you don't really need for being explosive, to the cards you need. And so I liked him in pool, and the fact that when I play him, I run a lot of basics, and we're going to go to the table, and I'm going to kind of show you what I mean by that. But I wanted just to kind of give a general talk here, just to, before we jump into, a lot of stuff here, because I'm going to dive into a lot of talk, but I wanted to get through just a general sense of, where we at with these heroes. And before we jump to the table, I'm just going to quickly talk a little bit about Ghost Spider. Now, I'm very familiar with Ghost Spider. I love the covert type heroes, the heroes that can do stuff on the villain phase. That play style is definitely up my alley. So any type of hero that can kind of do that kind of stuff, I kind of fall in love with them. Like Black Widow hero, definitely one of my all-time favorites. Ghost Spider is as well. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm like a blue magic control player at heart or something. I just love to kind of make the villain have a really bad turn, basically. It's fun to do that. So with her, she's so good in protection, in my opinion, because she has that 3 defense to begin with. So I think any hero in the game that starts with 3 defense is already up there for a great protection hero. And then the fact is, you can throw like energy barriers. So 1 energy barrier out could get her to to a perfect defense of 4. And you throw an armor vest, then bumps her defense up more. And electro armor is amazing with her because she is, when she does the first defense, you're always doing some type of response or thing that's going to trigger dizzy reflexes. So then you get that ready. And the fact is, per phase, protection is that aspect that allows her to play stuff like Defiance and use energy barriers and armor vest, electro armor. So you're getting the full mileage out of her dizzy reflexes in the villain phase and in hero. So I think, not to say you can't play her in other aspects. I'm not definitely not saying that, but I feel right at home playing her in a perfect defense type archetype. And she was very solid. Every game I had, various different villains we played. If you're interested to see what those games kind of look like, you can go to my live feed. And I think there's like 3 or 4 different games that we sort of played with Ghost Spider and Quicksilver. And she was very consistent. A lot of times she took no damage. And Defiance scales super well, especially if you go into Standard 2 or you play harder villains with like bad boost abilities. So Defiance is great because it's a 0 cost. And she has such a high raw stat of 3 defense that even in the early game, you could Defiance and you're perfect defending, basically, because most villains don't have a general stat of 4 attack. Some do, but most of them don't. Usually the threshold for most scenarios is 2 or 3. But we run 3 energy barriers. We have an armor vest. So it's very easy for us to ramp up our defense and our perfect defense mechanism. And the spin I did with her, though, I went into kind of this late game ticket to the multiverse build where I will build myself up with energy barriers, and then I will do a ticket. I'll repurpose a bunch of them. I'll assess the situations to get a bigger hand size. And then we do these big damage turns with her. And then on the villain phase, do a huge counter punch turn with our stats boosted from repurpose. And the nice thing about repurpose is we can, like in a pinch, if we're going to die to threat, Ghost Spider can then become super amazing thwarter, even though she's a 1 thwart. You just target your energy barriers. Worst case, you can even target your, I'll show you, our gauntlets. So the web bracelet, sorry, is a tech item. So that's obviously you don't really want to target like, repurpose with them. But if it's like literally the game's going to end in 1 or 2 turns, go for it. It's yeah, obviously don't do it in the early game because these are way more valuable to keep. But like if you had nothing to repurpose and you really need just a little bit more damage, or you have to thwart off a side scheme and you're going to win in the next turn or two, this is a valid target, right? So you could target your web bracer. So she's super fun. She's got cancels. And I think Ticket the Multiverse is such a cool mechanic that we've never seen in the game. Like it's very unique, and it's you can even do like things like if you're almost about to deck out, you don't want to get that extra encounter card, you could Ticket, and then everything gets shuffled back, and you avoid an encounter card. So there's little tricks you can even do. Although I always prefer to trigger it when I'm like ready to go, all my energy barriers, and I have a couple of repurposes in hand, and then I start like just boosting her big time. So yeah, that's just a general idea of like, I wanted to give you a quick idea of sort of how I see these heroes. So I look at Ghost Spider as covert type of early, mid, late game control hero, and complements very well with a setup hero, which we have Quicksilver kind of like a setup hero. All right, so we're going to go to the table so I can show you guys the decks that I kind of use to play. And I know that's a big topic that a lot of people want to see, like, what is my deck? What are the cards in my deck? So this is kind of a way for you guys to kind of see what I'm doing and what I'm running. So we're going to go there, and then we'll head back to this again for me to close up and maybe take some of your questions and stuff. All right. So we're going to start with Quicksilver. Like I said at the beginning, I chose Pool, and I feel very comfortable with him in Pool. I'm going to go over my thought process here, but basically, Laser Swords and Stick-to-Itness are probably the all-star cards of the deck. Let's just show it on the big screen. So let's just, because this is, I think, really what just is the chef kiss with Quicksilver. Basically, Quicksilver has his friction resistant upgrade that when he gets a ready, it will ready, and this upgrade can be used as a resource. So Stick-to-Itness is basically giving him a ready every hero phase. Like just here you go. You now have 3 readies because Quicksilver, his identity has super speed. So super speed is when you use your first basic per phase, you get a ready. So the cool part is now, because you play Stick-to-Itness, that's almost like that's additional kind of free ready the way you look at it, because if you have friction resistance, this will pay for this free basically, because when you reset either with super speed or whatnot, so it's extremely powerful. Like it just makes Quicksilver even more crazier, right? When you set up, those stats are going to get way more use out of this Stick-to-Itness, this extra ready. And sometimes you get exhausted or whatnot. This is your way of just get out of the exhaust, right? You can just use it, and then you're, because that's sort of, if you look at his Nemesis deck, what's his name? Avalanche, I think. He exhausts you. Some of his treacheries exhaust you. So I believe when they made Quicksilver, he was really strong. I think they realized that. And so they counterbalanced him a bit by giving him kind of a nasty nemesis set that kind of slows him down. But Stick Tunus kind of counters that. And it stays in your play mat. So it's not like getting Mighty Avengers or the zero cost basic that you could, if you have an Avenger out, you can exhaust the Avenger and ready yourself. This is even better because this stays on the play area. You can use it when you need to use it. But yeah, obviously the star of his identity kit would be friction resistance. We'll talk a little bit more about this in a little bit and why it's so good. But Laser Swords is the other big one I would say is huge for him. Again, I would say so far in our roster, he is the best ready character, bar none, even better than X23. Because he has four always be running. These are events. He has a built-in ready in his just hero side on his identity card. And then if you run Stick Tunis, that's another ready. And then you factor in tenacity. His friction resistance basically pays for tenacity every time. So you no other hero has that sort of that free interaction with tenacity. It synergizes perfectly with friction resistance. So he is by far the best hero in best ready type hero in the game. I'm willing to debate anyone on that. I believe hands down he wins that debate, unless there's a new hero that comes out in the future that somehow even breaks this ready even more. But I don't know. Quicksilver seems to be pretty much the undisputed champion of readies in the game. So yeah, Laser Swords is great with him, and that I think these are two stellar cards in the pool aspect. Now, yes, you could play hero in a pool aspect other than Quicksilver in a player counted game. You could run plot convenience and just kind of plot those down. Quicksilver can kind of take them and play them. That is an option, but it's sometimes you don't get plot convenience at the start, so sometimes it could be like crumblesome. But I think he gels really well because you have these triples that pays for like Wanda, your friction resistance, which is 3 costs. Some of your basics, right? Your tenacities are 2 costs. Your symbiote suit, which again, I think he's one of, I wouldn't say the best hero in the game, but I would say he's up there with Drax and other heroes for being probably one of the best heroes to utilize, because he can he utilizes that thwart so well, utilizes the attack so well, even the defense, because you got to remember he gets a ready defense basically every phase. So I believe he's one of the top heroes for symbiote suit. And because you're playing the pool aspect, you get those triples, which are going to be fantastic. Plus, you got a mansion. Now, I play on standard 2, and the beauty of, like, obviously, you got to run the mansion. If you're running symbiote suit and you play on standard 2, believe me, you want to run the mansion, because what will happen is, overwhelming will hit. And if you do not have the mansion down with symbiote suit, your symbiote suit will get targeted because that's the highest cost upgrade. And if you're below your cap, which is 9, you just die. So yeah, you don't want that to happen. So that's one thing I would just say. But again, he benefits from Avengers Mansion, and it does synergize well because you're running triples. Because Quicksilver wants a big hand size. He wants to go. He wants to be explosive when he maximum velocities and he sets up all his upgrades. So it actually does still do well. Of course, if you play on just normal expert standard, caught off guard, you can kind of just target something inexpensive. But I sort of pretty much only play standard 2 expert nowadays. So I'm just throwing that out there. So we're running 3 player size schemes. Now, what's cool about it on 2-player, because I play 2-handed, we could play Living Dangerously out. And then if we draw into specialized training or superpower training, we can play those. We're at the player limit for size schemes, which in a 2-player game is 1, and 3 to 4 players is 2. So because we're at the limit, when we play, say, super training, we can then discard this, which is great because, I mean, unless you're Cable, you're not really benefiting from getting rid of it, right? If you thwart 6 on it, it goes to the victory display. So are you benefiting? You're not really benefiting unless you're playing someone like Cable or whatnot. So that's one little tip I would say is you can kind of do that. I actually did that on my last game where I played a early Live Dangerously out early to get a bigger hand size. And then we drew into one of our other 1-cost player size schemes and we just traded it out and it was pretty good. We're running the pool allies and with the Deadpool core ship. So this is great because these are quite expensive. So if we don't have a triple, we can still get these out. And you don't have any tough removal in the Quicksilver identity kit. So kit pull can be very clutch on scenarios with a lot of tough. And Lady Pool is actually really nice because when you get a bad minion out there, maybe a lot of high health, it's not elite, or it has some attachments like you're playing through Mutant Genesis with Sentinels, you can get these non-elite minions that can get all these attachments. So you just kill her off and then boom, it's dead. So I think she's very good. Like, yes, you get the boost amplification, but again, if you stun the villain or in this case, we're running Defiances, which Ghost Spider would just discard that boost card, even if it has amplification. So it actually worked quite well. 2 mulligans because it help if we want to get set up quickly with Quicksilver. So we want to get the number 1 card we want to get down as fast as possible is his friction resistance. So we might, when we play the game, our opening hand might be pretty bad, but we get a mulligan, we can kind of, redo it. And the fact that Serval Industries can grab our Quicksilver cards from the discard pile back to our deck, it makes it where even if we had to get rid of some key Quicksilver card, we can kind of get it back. So we could sometimes you could proc Serval Industries and then play mulligan to draw into those cards that we put back. So there is some synergy with mulligan. I'm not running 3, just 2. And I think it gives them some flexibility and turbo setup, basically, if we need to. But the way I kind of play him is I set up these tenacities. These are sort of my game end finishers with adrenaline rushes. And basically what happens is I go through the game trying to control the villain setup. And once I get all these down, which is not too hard, once you've got your friction resistance and your mansion, you'll have lots of cards and stuff. So it's usually on the second deck pass. So the first deck pass, I usually concentrate on Avenger Mansion or Symbiote Suit maybe, putting my general upgrades like my +1 defense, +1 thwart, +1 attack. And then on the second pass, I'm usually trying to get tenacities down in all my adrenaline rushes. And then I'm usually ready on the third deck pass. And that's when my deck has been severely, because I got all these upgrades out. What it does a couple of things. It shrinks my deck. So now when I'm doing my industries and I'm putting my cards back into my deck, I have a very, very tiny deck. And most of that deck are the cards I want, like the readies. And again, these player size schemes are generally gone too. So my deck is very, very thin as I get to that second deck pass. And then I'm going to have all these out. So what it translates into huge damage turn. Like we're talking, and I did this multiple streams. I had 2 games out of 3 to do back-to-back sort of 100 plus damage turns with Quicksilver. And this is even one of the 100 plus turn that I had. I was stunned and I had to thwart and take tough off and stuff like that. So we're talking mega damage. So I just want to point out that he's an amazing hero for a setup hero and high damage hero. And even when he's set up, he can thwart quite a bit because with his own identity upgrade, perception boosts him to 2 thwart, with symbiote 3 thwart. Then you have all these readies. So if you maximum him, he becomes a 5 thwart with a ton of readies. So he could pretty much, the hard part with him is getting him to the mid game to end game. Once you get him to mid game and he's set up, he's almost like Iron Man in a sense, but more bursty. And, the way you go. So this is sort of how I play them. These are all the cards. And I just, I had so much fun in playing it this way. And I think, if you're interested, try them in the pool. Here's all the cards I use. And again, though, I play this in a player-counted game. So it might work in solo. I haven't tried, but this worked really well when we teamed up with Ghost Spider over here. So we're just gonna remove some of these cards so I'm gonna then talk a little bit about Ghost Spider, and then we're gonna go back to the general talk about my experiences and what I liked, what I didn't like. But I'm really liking the pool aspect. It's a very fun aspect. I know it's not for everybody, but I really liked it. All right, so we're going to talk now about Ghost Spider. And you might say, man, you're only running 1 ally? Well, let me explain my thought process. Obviously, I will say this. Allies are good in this game. And yes, like some of the best players and deck builders out there always put lots of allies in decks. I think, though, certain builds or certain kind of team ups, you can go a little less allies. Now, I think if you're going to go less allies, perfect defense builds are probably your best. And we are running a perfect defense build with Ghost Spider. So I think in that regard, it can work. And Quicksilver sort of is covering us with a lot of thwart removal. But Ghost Spider is pretty good. She's kind of like, she has those back phantom flips that can remove 5. So in a 2-player counted game, that's quite strong. So let me talk about, so we run 2 unflappables. This is pretty much like one of our most important cards in the protection build, because she will literally defend every single round because she wants to take advantage of dizzy reflexes. So you're not like the way you play usually OG Peter Parker, you're usually taking some hits just directly, not exhausting. Unlike her, you're going to be doing a lot of exhausting to tap into her dizzy reflexes. So we want to get this out. Now, what's nice is even the second one can go on Quicksilver because he gets his own free exhaust for defense on the villain phase. And not that I would defend only against the villain. Maybe if I maximum velocity up, I would. But if there's a minion out there, Quickie can do a free kind of defense. Minions usually only have 2-3 attack at the most. And so you usually can just defend that minion attack and then get a free card from it and ready with this ability. So it's not a complete waste. But yeah, running 2, you will get this quicker. And then the extra one can kind of go on to Quicksilver if you have the resources for it. But that was probably the key call out. Try to get this out as quickly as possible. Web of Life. You might say, why would you run Web of Life? You're just running 1 Web Warrior character. That is kind of weird, Discraig. Explain yourself. Well, let me explain. So if we play Across the Spider-Verse, we have to exhaust a Web Warrior card. So what's nice about if we have Web of Life, it is a Web Warrior card. We can exhaust it. We can get Spider-Man out. So that's one reason. Second reason, if we're playing on Standard 2, Overwhelming Force is actually going to target this because it's 3 costs. But it only costs 0 for me to play when I'm in hero mode. So again, it's going to protect our web gauntlets. It's going to protect a lot of our good upgrades, right? We don't want our gauntlets to be targeted, our bracers, sorry. So this also had me. So it targets this. And then when we draw it into our hand, when we cycle, it's 0 cost. We put it down again. So it actually is pretty good on Standard 2. But the other point is, eventually Spider-Man will die. Okay, he'll get the 3rd consequential. Then we draw a card. So it does multi things. It allows me to play this and not have to worry about exhausting a Web Warrior card. And I have a target for Overwhelming Force. And if Spider-Man leaves, we draw a card. So so that's sort of the reason behind it. We run 3 doubles. We got a vest out to go to 4, electro armor because we're defending every turn. It is a tech. We can even use a repurpose on this, which is also a benefit. The 3 energy barriers, again, we kind of want to leave 1 counter on these and then use repurposes. Spider-Man, Spider-Man ally basic, Peter Parker. Because let me show you. She has events in her. Let's use this as an example. So you got Phantom Flip. You notice where it says max 1 per basic power use. So here's the thing. Maybe I have 3 kind of event type identity cards. I can only kind of do 2 of them in a round. But if I have Spider-Man out, I get another ready, right? So then I could potentially do 3 of those. So, which is really nice. The other nice thing is I might defend for Quicksilver and then defend for myself. And then I'm exhausted, right? Because I can only use Dizzy 1 time in the villain phase. But if I have him out, when I start my turn, I can thwart or attack, and then I get a ready. And then I'm back to I could do a Dizzy again, get another ready. So, Spider-Man OG, very good in this type of deck. And yes, I know I could run Auto Octavius and ready my gauntlet and then draw a card. But here's the problem, right? I'm a firm believer in 40 to 41 card decks. I'm not, and I know like even Villain Theory and other deck builders that are popular build over the 40 limit. And I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying in my perspective, I think it's wrong. I think in many card games out there, in competitive card games, if you want consistency, if you want your deck to do what it's trying to do, the smaller or the less cards in your deck, the more consistent it will be. And so that's sort of my thinking around it. And many professional like players in different card games support that notion. It's not like something new. But again, I'm not trying to pick on Villain Theory or these other deck builders, but I'm strongly against going over. I don't mind going to 41. In fact, I think this one over here is 41 because we're running just the extra unflappable. But I usually never go past. I try to get it to 40, but if I have to, put 1 more card in, I'll go to 41. But yeah, I would not want to go beyond 41. And that's why we're not running like auto. We just don't have room for it. Because what I'm trying to do with this deck is I'm trying to set up for basically a ticket to the universe, a ticket to the multiverse. So by using Assess the Situation, we sort of get like 2 hero turns, and then a big hand size villain turn. And because we're like a covert hero that we do stuff on the villain turn, we could do a whole bunch of counter punches. So what usually happens is I will energy barrier, or I'll repurpose my energy barriers, bump my attack step up by a lot, like 6 or 8. I'll play a lot of assess the situations, and then I want to show the card 1 second. Oh, I got the cards here. Yeah, so one thing, what you're doing here is you're basically discarding your hand. You're readying all your Ghost Spider cards, and everything that's in the discard pile, you're then shuffling that all together. So what that translates into, if you did a bunch of assess the situations on that turn, they're actually going to go right back in, and then you could do it again. So I've had times where I had like a +10 hand size going into the villain phase in hero mode, which is bonkers. But what that sort of does is we usually can get our stat to like 6 or 8 attack, and then we go into that villain phase, and usually because our hand size is so big, or we can stuff, we could put these under George Stacy, that when we do that defend, we do I don't know, it's not called a web kick, it's called what's it called? A ghost kick. We do a ghost kick, plus we do counter punches. So if my strength is 8, a 0 cost is doing 8 damage. We're dizzying reflexes. We're doing a web kick for 6. So you're just nuking that villain, and it's like it's a really fun experience because no other hero kind of can do this. So it's a very fun way to kind of, and also I must say that counter punch is not a popular card in the community, at least on Marvel DB. There's not many decks out there that is like, oh yeah, I run 3 counter punches. Like any popular decks out there, I think I can't think of any popular deck that runs 3 counter punches. But anyways, yeah, so you're running a card that people think it's a joke card, but it works amazing. Repurpose is awesome. It's very utility wise. And then you're running a card, again, that not everybody kind of runs, but it works super well with her because it synergizes with Ticket to the Multiverse. All right, so, and that's sort of how this deck works. And it's just very fun to play. And it's like kind of like a puzzle trying to get it all set up. But when you do, it's very fun. So we're going to go back to my main screen. All right, so here I am. So now I went through sort of the decks, what they look like, and, I played enough with both of them. What are my final thoughts and, on these heroes? For one, I think they work great together. I think Ghost Spider, again, like I said, is kind of a covert type hero. She's able to control and do stuff on the villain. She also can protect Quicksilver. So Quicksilver is kind of frail, only has 9 hit points. And she just is a perfect team up hero with him. And I think they complement each other very well. And I found that what would happen is she would kind of hold it down early to mid game, like do a lot of big plays, and then Quicksilver would get online and just bring us to the finish line, so to speak. And what other? I'm trying to blank here. What else can I talk about? I mean, here's the thing. I don't really have a lot of negative things with them. I never ran into problems with thwarting, which is strange because you think, well, Quicksilver doesn't get online until he has a lot of his upgrades. But usually I would have a Phantom Flip, which reduces a lot of threat, 5. The fact that she's playing in hero like 80% of the time means that the villain is not activating on schemes that much. So I think that's another thing that people miss out. Like when you play a perfect defense hero and protection, those variants tend to stay in hero for quite a bit. So not you got to factor in that when the villain activates, they're usually activating in attacking you, not scheming. So that's another thing to factor in. And far as Quicksilver goes, overall, I never had a game where I didn't have an answer, right? Even when there was a game where I had so much side schemes, like I was bombarded with a lot of bad side schemes, I was able to go explosive with Quicksilver by maximum velocity. And then having 4 to 5 readies, I just exploded all the threat off. I didn't even need pool inspection. I thought maybe I might need to run pool inspection. Didn't need it because when he goes explosive, he just knocks everything out. So, yeah. So, I mean, unfortunately, this Let's Talk, I do not have a lot of people chatting with me tonight. So usually we get some people, saying stuff or making comments. So it makes it more interesting when we're doing these Let's Talks, but that's okay. I'm kind of just talking to myself here. But I don't really have any negative things to say. Maybe when this video is published, you guys can write in comments to me. If there's certain things you don't like about Quicksilver or Ghost Spider, let me know what it is. And I don't know, I might just wrap things up here because I don't know what else to talk about. I mean, we could talk about their nemesis. Ghost Spider has probably one of the easiest nemesis in the game. Not the easiest, but up there, being near the top easiest nemesis in the game. I mean, you could say Lizard is, he's a 3 attack. That's pretty bad. But her web kick or ghost kick, can just knock him off. He's dead. And because you're playing protection, you have those energy barriers and whatnot. So it's not too scary. And then he only has a 1 scheme. The fact of the matter is that like his treacheries are pretty lackluster. Like, oh no, Lizard's going to activate on me. Like, so that's a very bad tempo play for the villain, because it's like if you're an alter, he schemes for 1. If he is out in play, he attacks you for 3, but like you have like maybe 4 armor, 3 armor, energy barriers. So that's not really going to hurt you too much. And then you've got this really it's fairly weak size scheme. Now, it does get annoying if you're trying to grind the villain down bit by bit, a little bit of damage here, a little bit of damage there. But if you're explosive type with Quicksilver, you don't care about regenerative research when you're doing 100 damage in 1 turn. So again, that's another really, really weak sauce card. Then you got this attachment that is also super weak. It just adds 4 HP and gives a minion the creature trait, which... okay, that's cool. So she has a very weak sauce nemesis kit, which is good for the player, right? It dilutes the encounter deck. So when I get shadows, I'm like high-fiving Steve from Play the Game and celebrating, because it's now I've got a bunch of cards in there that I don't mind if they come out. Like, I'm like, okay, come out, please. Unlike Mr. Quicksilver, which he has a very nasty nemesis kit. So what's nasty is when the nemesis comes out, it's going to insight by 3. So that's really bad in single player, actually extremely bad in single player. But it is still pretty annoying in 2-player. You're exhausted. Each player must choose either take 2 indirect damage or exhaust their identity. So yeah, you got to decide how you're gonna resolve that. And then you got a crisis, but his treacheries are also very bad. He has 2 of those, which are insight again. Discard 2 cards and exhaust your identity. That is a very bad card. And then he even has this that can go on the villain, and the villain takes 1 less damage. So a lot of counter to Quicksilver, how Quicksilver wants to play. But Quicksilver is just so powerful. Even like when he's fully set up, this kind of slows him down a bit, but not. I was able to still bounce back with that but that is a bad Nemesis set, I will say. All right, so that's going to, I think, wrap things up, guys. We're going to be venturing into a new set of heroes. I do plan to do another tier list, probably for like best perfect defense heroes, or best covert heroes, something like that. So that will be in the tubes coming up. I will say I am going to run, on my next team game, we're going to run OG Spider-Man Peter Parker. So Web Warrior Fanatic will probably be excited about that, since that's his favorite hero. And I don't know who I'm going to team up Spider-Man Peter Parker. Well, I have to figure that out. But no, he's definitely going to be one of my heroes that I put out there, because I've not played him in a long time, and I do actually really like him. I like the way his mechanism works, and I just think he's like a really fun hero to play in a lot of scenarios. So stay tuned for that. But I'm going to sign off, and thank you guys for watching. Please hit that like, subscribe button, help me grow the channel. I will see you next time.